Now I'm going to mute all and take it away.
All right, all right. So nice to see everybody here at the first Lit Balm of 2025. And our fearless leader, Mark, is he's in the jail. He's impersonating a poet. No, of course not. He's in the recording studio, actually. And I just want to tell you what he's been living with lately. Some spine vine swallowtails, some cloudless sulfurs, and Acadian hair streaks. That's what he's living with up there. There are more of those than there are bipedal hominids, by which he means poetry, right? I mean people, not poets. Not everybody's a poet, but they should be, maybe, right? And there's Tom. Tom, man. So I'm going to start off with thanking everybody once again. And Sarah's on her way. She'll be popping in any minute. And we have a great lineup. And um, as usual, I'll read a little poem, then I'll introduce our fabulous co-hosts, one of them, Cassandra, and then we'll run through the readers. Not run, we'll stroll wonderfully, let our readers entertain and enlighten and delight us. And then John Wessick, who's doing our tech stuff. And I wanted today to give a shout out to Jonathan Penton. And some of you know Jonathan in New Orleans. Maestro there with his press unlikely, and he's been through some stuff with his son dying actually, and he's been helping on this from the beginning, and so I just wanted to say that about John. And then I'm going to read my poem here called Hitch,
Do you think
and
I should introduce you first, though, Jeff? I'm happy to
oh,
read
that's
your
okay.
bio.
I
Okay.
thought about it, but that's okay. Thank you though, Cassandra. You're sweet. Um, this poem, Cindy pointed out that has 15 lines. So I was trying to think of which one to take out, maybe. Believe me, I tried a few of them, but Hitch. Can you hear the damn radio? I tried to turn it off. Hold on one second. Just muted it. I mean, I like the radio and all, but all right, here we go. Hitch. You came to me, twigs on the ground after a storm. You came to me, a meteor on your shoulder. I found you churning, a tugboat towing a river. Square zero. Make use of me, said the dummy. Amorous murmurs led to being counted on, hugging the shore, ice on the deck, iron, knee, meet me at the bend. You came to me as a code meant to be an ode. You will leave through a door made of tears, opening on evening's court. Night's ravenous ink unleashed from the east, swallowing the clock. Trust sorrow's long tail curling up by your bed, waiting for your heart's ship to unmoor. A star or two is out now, secret keyholes from you. So, hitch. And there's always a hitch when you feel like you're hitched up there. So let me introduce our fabulous co-host here, Cassandra, now. And thank you for letting me share that with you. Cassandra Atherton is an award-winning prose poet and international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote Prose Poetry, An Introduction, and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. She's commissioning editor for Westerly Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia, where she is now. Welcoming Sunday, and let's welcome Cassandra Atherton.
Thanks so much, Jeff. I have a poem. I went to Greece last year, to Athens and to Santorini, and it was incredibly magical. And now I have the Aegean blues, as writers have talked about. So I'm going to read a poem called Hill of the Muses, which was published in Tupelo. Under baking orange skies, we ascend the curved stones to the summit. Weighed down by water bottles, my hair is a moist bird's nest on my neck's slick nape. In the shadow of the Philopappus monument, you search for the shrine to the muses, running your hands over rocks like a dream in braille. I step into the sun. I'm a shell ready to be fired. I'm gunpowder in the night. On the crest of the hill, I fit myself into the muses' niches. Filled with men's fingertips and howlings, the shrine is only rubble and dust. In empty boxes, I'm cast in sun-bleached stone as the 10th muse. My name is Poesi. I sit on the altar and wait for you to run your hands over my body's nooks, but you don't recognize me. So I take a tiny stone from the cairn as a reminder of ruin and hold it up to the sky. I'm a powder keg. My words burn through your pages. And Mark will kill me if I don't read a short one from him, because he does read one from me when I'm away. So this is called Into the Unseen, and he has a number of poems recently published and up on his Facebook site. So Into the Unseen. And it goes deeper than you can imagine, deeper still than the very last layer, for there is no full stop. The butcher bird scries these pastures since the day the sky reflects the water. She knows each cell is linked to one another, deep to their eternal end. All those circles of infinity bound together in a single forever of voles and beetles and crickets and parasites. So that one was from Mark Vincennes. So back to you, host with the most.
Thank you, Cassandra. That was a lovely, lovely, lovely poem that you read, both of them. Yes. And now let me introduce John Deming. John Deming is the author of the poetry book Headline News from Indolent Books in 2018, and he's published work in Fence, Boston Review, New Orleans Review, A Public Space, and other journals. He lives in New York City, where he teaches at LIM College and curates the fabulous KGB Lit series, The Camelot of New York, along with Susan Lewis, who's here, and a couple of people. Let's please welcome John Deming.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff's a regular patron there, which is amazing. And thanks so much for asking me to do this. And yeah, great to see you again, Cindy and everybody. This is really cool. All right, just a few poems for you all. Thank you for listening. Okay. Sorry, I'm playing with my windows here. And all right, this first one's called Can't Fly. Can't fly. 3 penguins under a yellow moon. One looks up, down, offers each friend a cigarette. They laugh a little, like, what's the harm? We know where we're headed. They get a little high, and a penguin gets talking about the icebergs, how they're melting, how the bears grow more depraved, more terrifying every day, whether a penguin should help fill the thickening sky with carbon. The sky we won't worry about, a penguin says, takes a stutter step back with the breeze. That one is Orion. That one is a pawn. The night sky always includes us, so it'll always be ours. This one's called Hope You're Doing Well. Hope you are doing well. If you call yourself you in your brain, who's the one saying you? You need to calm down. Who said that? Bathroom mirror, it's both of you and me. And me, I hope you were doing well. You in the mirror, you reading this, you who sent an email to you or me that opens this way. You like the you someone intends when they post a story for friends or followers, but have in mind an audience of one. Machines even write this line for us now. Hope you are doing well. That's how hopeful we are. How well we do. Exposed. How time feels physically. Now, like both my heads, and now like both my heads are hot air balloons aging up like this. More visible landscapes, but they're increasingly indistinct. A kind of getting older in both directions. How something that happened 30, 40, or 50 years before you were born feels recent once you've lived that many years. So you've lifted off, but you're digging too. You're the groundhogs of Fort Tryon Park, tunneling below the frost line into welcoming earth, then a long sleep, then the beginning of something else. Waking to a breakfast of clover and dandelions, wrecked sky, the providence of a new day, memories of last night and my last look at the stars, one beating like a heart. Before I ducked under for good, between dreams I could feel it rising in me that anything could crawl, slither, or burst through these muddy walls, even helicopter blades. Can I really keep all of this going? I obsessed over ghost frogs, acid in the grass, crawling things, lost so close to the skin, sharp and enduring pain in my ribs. We sleep in groups, mostly stay warm. But I foraged alone yesterday, wandered too far, found that feeling again. Time on the tips of my fur. I was lifted from my mind and suddenly recognized nothing, not one compassionate tree. I must have wandered in all 12 directions of anonymous dirt, anonymous entrances to anonymous burrows that led to whole networks of tunnels I didn't know, that might have been familiar but weren't. Tripped through a fifth, dismissed it, looked again real hard, tried, looked harder, realized I knew it. So you can bet I started tunneling right back to you. Thinking about you rising, I wondered about you so close. God, I missed you again. Thank you. And this final one is called Elephants at Dawn for Graham Bezanson. Graham, there are elephants in the Midtown Tunnel, a coyote on the roof of a bar in Queens, a snowy owl on a tree in Governor's Island, a hawk on the roof of a Dykeman Street diner eating a rat. 4 people gawk at the scene, which is grotesque. Not for the bloody violence, one says, but because this fit-looking bird is swallowing up pieces of an unwashed city rat. After you left for France, a flea from a New York rat tested positive for bubonic plague, which hawks can contract, but as always, I'm left asking questions before leaving this island. How many fleas did that hawk wash down like we do particles of plastic? How does anyone leave any island other than by forgetting in our heads? How do animal skulls protect us from the beams orbiting down, the orange renaissance in the sky, the rash of slithering complacencies that work like funny grubs, their slow paths inside our caskets? I remember it both ways, that the past is depression and the future anxiety, that the past is gratitude. Thanks for the gratitude, and the future curiosity. By grace, the curious hope seen in the painted bunting who found subsistence in Prospect Park for a few days in 2015, dazing birders with his galactic feathers and ordinary hops. All right, thank you. Thanks again, Jeff. Thanks everybody for listening.
John, you got one more? Yeah,
Sure.
read it. Yeah, read another one, okay?
All right, you got it. Thanks. All right, this is The Audience Will End Before the Symphony from Mark Maron. If you read someone else's great line in a dream, if you read someone else's great line in a dream and wake up and realize they never wrote it, is it yours? On Mark's podcast, he says this morning he heard a last voice saying, the audience will end before the symphony. If the audience ends before the symphony, then a symphony doesn't require an audience in order to proceed as a symphony, but is forced to experience itself as a lost thing. The decline begins the day after you've dusted a thing for the last time. In the same episode, he jokes that fossil fuels trapped in the sky are the revenge of the dinosaurs. Some dead things really did ripen into oil after they died, so the audience ends before the symphony because the audience becomes the symphony. The wallpaper absorbs it like nicotine. With the thousands of forgotten symphonies you've played in your mind, the isolated audience for all of it, stuck there even as you thought you made your way out the lobby doors and into the dark, saying what a cold night, glancing towards the visible stars, thinking you still had time. Dinosaurs, like people, have bunkers in their minds. All right.
Yeah, man. Still
Thanks,
have
Jeff.
time. I had
What's that?
Yeah, we still have time, right?
Yeah.
That was great. Great
think
stuff,
so.
man.
Thank you,
Oh,
man.
Sarah. Oh, great. So, hold on a second. Thank you for your patience there. I'm sorry. You know, I dreamed one time that I was introducing John Ashbery and I read a poem of his and I had that very thought. But the trouble was John, I could remember a damn line, but I thought, God, if I could have said that in my dream, I could actually have written something like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? If it, I mean, if it originates from your brain,
It's like when you're
whatever.
dancing with Hillary
Yeah,
Clinton or something.
yeah, it's like more of a dispatch or something.
All
Yep.
right, John Deming. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Okay, all right, let's go. Now we're going to hear from Ana Božičević, who grew up actually in Zadar, Croatia, before she came here to the United States. And she's the author of The Fabulous New Life from Wave Books in 2023 and other books of poetry, and the prose chapbook Deb Bench from Third Man Books in 2021. I know you're going to like this. Ana Božičević. Hey.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really nice to be here with you. It's so cold, and like I don't know, I'm not very motivated to leave my nest. So to be able to have these angelic visits in the ether while I'm in my nest is pretty nice. So I'll read you the eponymous poem from New Life. So New Life. And then I'll read you some new poems. I think about it every day, to just leave and start life among some other people in a little town in the middle of America. I would tell them my name was whatever, think of some random name and say it. I'd work in a diner, put out the pie, coffee, and burgers. At the counter, the echo of great cities where everyone I ever loved, everyone who ever hurt me, anyone I ever hurted wouldn't reach. Lost among fields and mountains and highways, I wouldn't have anything much, unknown and safe, in witness protection from crimes of the heart. Outside the merciless glare of my story that blinds me, bumps into me, always spinning, so I see the back of her head and her face all at once. The one that tells me, you failed to live me, sang off tune like a shitty orchestra, and that's why no one loves you enough to stay. Shut up, Anna, I would say. The name's Linda. So I don't know, like, have you ever wanted to just be Linda? Is there a Linda here, by the way? Sometimes I say that, I'm like, there must be a Linda here feeling good about herself because she's the real Linda. So I don't know, New Life, if you see it, they sell it like wrapped up in cellophane. So I hope that you'll take a chance on it and break the seal and take a look. And I've been writing, I don't know, I'll read you some of these, a few of these new poems I've been writing. But I don't know, I won't contextualize them too much. This one's called Old. To be old like an old violin or the mountain's mantle. To experience in a small way what it feels like for a galaxy, an object in orbit around some planet. To have lasted as long as this, for the vessel to still spark and the spirit, though abashed at what she'd seen, still willing. To have quietly attained some quality unique to you, to be a very specific color, to have an archive of sunsets, to measure each new one to. How amazing. I like the idea of like acquiring, enlarging my sunset archive. And this is called War. War came like a whisper, a letter, a cloud. People say they saw a ghost. Now the ghost is on TV. War came in cold and soft like fog from a basement trapdoor. From the flesh it cooked in, it whooshed until it covered everything. Then the booms and cracks ring out in the fog. In the fatalistic glaze in the eyes of the men, the click of suitcase clasps, grind of metal on metal, war was the one ineffable thing they had in common like a color or odor. War came until there was only war in the shape of people and buildings. The sea became war and the sky also war. I became a war in my life, a story of war. War came even though it never had to, something I read about but didn't quite believe in, and then it was all I could think about, like love. And I feel like that's something, it's something that I'm feeling is happening to us now too. Like the things are getting filled with like the unfamiliar matter of some brave new future until we'll recognize their forms, but what's in the inside will be something quite different. And I a few like 3 years ago, I lost a friend who was basically like a sister. She immigrated at the same time as me, and we kind of like held each other up. So I've been writing a lot about her and to her recently, and I'll read you a few of those poems. Some of them don't have titles. You went out in a rush of fire and song, spinning into the sooty night and taking my youth with you, light bulbs blinking. The last glow of love, of beauty, fades into the glint of the wet street. Now snow begins, thick wet snowflakes replaced by a sudden sun. Dawn has always belonged to you, pale and deep. Those last few vague clinks of the piano, heard in the fleeting shreds of a dream, woke me to the image of my face in the breaking mirror. This is the body that touched you, kissed, alone now in the technicalities of time, the dawn, the spell fading. Though if we were honest, just like the night always belonged to you, the secret feasts, alleys, and smoke, so did the day with its painted high waves. The world really doesn't know. It's just the scenery of your life, now the scenery of your death. Day and night, where they meet, I keep finding your perfume. This poem is called Sugar in a Hurricane, or On the Death of Anita Lane. So, Cassandra, you're Australian, so perhaps you understand my love and passion for Anita Lane. But this friend and I listen to Anita a lot, and there's like a few kind of like clinks of piano in the beginning of the song Sugar in a Hurricane that I always hear when I think about her. And I'll read you two more, the classic two more. So the first one's called Marie Ponceau. Marie Ponceau, in whose one class I have sat in my whole life. I went with a friend, but I dreamed her, and then I wrote this poem. The tide of nicotine pulls back, taking with it the catch of endless past nights, a wax skein leaving in its wake the nude night face of an unfamiliar city. Friends in my dreams, giving me shelter in the meadows, magazine in the bathtub, you in my dreams, wandering the grasses on the red apps, beautiful, searching for the potato of unsupervised exception. The dead in my dreams, approaching me at the wedding like old friends, like this poet I never studied with, offering help, a blessing, putting her head in my hand like a tired child. Then on the top of the hill, I stir honey away from the plastic, abstractly lidded vat of water. Other women approach me, holding sheaths of blades, tell me of an old art they must hide from the world, where in the hallways of stained glass, they made each other levitate just for fun. Marie, I don't know why she came to me. And let's see, what's the last one going to be? The last one could be maybe, let's see. How about I'm like trying to, okay, how about a really funny one? Ruins of Atlantis. Scientists penetrate through the icy skin of the planet Europa, only to find a green cavern, a Goldilocks zone where those from Earth can survive. A new city is established, the only city on a new planet, only it isn't the first. They also find the ruins of a small kingdom, Atlantis, the far country. How did our ancestors get here? Old scrolls in the monastery show a record of some third one who gave humans a steel star to ride, and they came to the far side on the ocean of time, and only one came back to tell the story. That man was William Shakespeare. That's a very silly poem, and I think I'd prefer to end on a silly note. So thank you so much, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Ana. That was out of this world. Really amazing stuff. So poetic and lyric. All right, Ana. Look forward to seeing you more and reading your more. That book is great. New Life from Wave Books, everybody. All right, we're going to go from that to Jerome Sala. It's Jerome's book here. As I was saying, Jerome has co-opted corporate speech and turned it into wry, amusing satire. And his latest books are How Much? New and Selected Poems, the New York Quarterly, and a chapbook written in collaboration with his spouse poet, Elaine Acquis. And also, Jerome did a collaboration with the artist Tamara Gonzalez, which is a beautiful piece. And the one with Elaine is called Double Feature from Insurance Editions. Forthcoming is a new collection entitled Galop from Blaise Vox. Other books include Corporations Are People Too, also from New York Quarterly Books, The Cheapskates from Lunar Chandelier, and Look Slimmer Instantly. Saw Skull. You can see where this is going, right? He does it so amazingly. He's unique that way. It's widely published. His work appears in many anthologies, including Pathetic Literature from Grove, Atlantic, and 2 editions of the Best American Poetry from Scribner's. Please welcome Jerome Sala.
Hey. A lot of my poems are rewrites of other poems, so I'm going to start off with a rewrite of a poem by W.S. Merwin. His poem was called Something I've Not Done, and in each stanza of his poem, there's this destiny that he didn't fulfill that's haunting him. And I thought a good modern equivalent of that is like when you look for products on the internet and maybe you don't buy it. So everywhere you go on the internet, the product is following you. So to his Something I've Not Done, mine is called Something I've Not Bought, after W.S. Merwin. Something I've not bought is following me. I see it in my Facebook feed, peeking out from the top of my email stream. The stream they promised they'd never sell, owned by a company I don't know well. Something I've not bought is following me, seen as I've not bought it again and again. I see the tracks of its ads like tears running down my screens. In the morning, it's there on my phone before breakfast. It seems to pop out of the void in a banner over my browser. I shrug off its warnings, tapping a great gray tab that says close. In the evening before bed, it knows I've spent a whole day not buying it again and again. Not being a person, it doesn't take it personally. But if I ever click on it, I'll never be rid of it. It will inhabit the very soul of my machine, demanding ransom, unless I pay or exercise it through a search and destroy mission in my applications file. If I shrug it off, I know it'll be okay. A stranger waving at me from an ocean liner I pretend not to see. Next poem's title poem from this new book that I'll have coming out called Glop. And I was thinking in this book, years ago, of course, in modernism, William Carlos Williams said, no ideas but in things. But it seems like today we have lots of things but no ideas. And so when people or artworks or whatever, movies try to come up with something new, they just keep loading more and more things, and it turns into like a kind of like a blob of glop that you're trying to work your way through. So this is about that. Glop. Some madman in a flavor lab designed the banana, vanilla, almond milk in my cereal this morning. Slightly purple, somewhat gloppy. It rains viscosity, a cloud's acid reflux phlegm, and turns individual flakiness into a silent, if living, blur. Classic films like The Blob predicted its arrival, which is to say, it's old while being new, or perhaps old in its newness, recalling the marketing practice of introducing minor differences into more of the same. Though in this case, the same is already different, as this is not just milk, but almond milk, and not just almond milk, but vanilla almond milk. So to the different, a difference has been added, and so on, the process now entering a Baroque phase. You could even say that this product is nostalgic for the good old days when to do the new required less effort. But nostalgic newness doesn't taste that good. Trying this hard requires too many layers, resulting in a sort of sludge. Perhaps this banana vanilla almond milk makes a statement, a slurpy cognitive map, which slips down the gullet, heralding a shift in eras from pop culture to glop culture. Next one is another kind of modernization of old modernist stuff. Like one of my favorite poets was Marianne Moore, who wrote all of these animal poems. Often she was just like looking at the animals in books and writing poems from them, never, didn't see them alive. So I thought a modern version of that would be when you watch animal videos on YouTube. So the animal I picked was the honey badger, and it sounds like a cute animal, but it's actually very vicious. So this is called The Goodness of Being Bad, with this quote, I sense your glory, Marianne Moore. The honey badger is admired as, quotes, that nasty-ass creature that just doesn't care. With its poor eyesight, like Schopenhauer's blind will, it is oblivious to opponents, even when it sticks its nose into beehives and devours the nectar within. No bigger than a mid-sized dog, it battles lions and crocodiles when surprised, which happens often when it's digging its nose into the dirt. Its technique? To assault a giant's genitals with its vicious jaws, whose grip is tighter than a black bear's. The honey badger is the hero of the YouTube channel, a sort of totem beast for the new economy. White stripe on back of black fur coat. It looks a little like a skunk, but it's rumored the hide can't be pierced by mere arrow or spear. To kill the honey badger, you must crush its skull or blow its brains out. Is the honey badger a symbol of the entrepreneur, the social media maven, the lumpen naturist, the hunter-gatherer of the virtual mall, or the gangbanger of the metaverse, or simply a David in a universe of Goliaths? Such questions pale before the essential one, which is, of course, don't you wish you were like the honey badger? And the last thing I'm going to read is wrote this poem before the last election, and it turned out to be one of the issues that turned the election. This poem has like two voices, kind of like a dialogic kind of poem. So I'm going to try to read both. And the poem is called The Price of Gas for Two Voices. It starts out with a quote by the economist Paul Krugman. You could summarize public opinion as being, quotes, I'm doing okay. People I know or see around me are doing okay. But I hear that really bad things are happening somewhere out there. Paul Krugman. The price of gas is a noisy lawnmower on an angry suburban lawn. Gas prices have gone up about 50% in the past 4 years. The price of gas is a noose you wear around your neck so you can dance to the Star-Spangled Banner rather than yield to those who kneel. If you are spending 25 to 30% of your income on food and prices have jumped 25%, you are in real pain. The price of gas is an altar on which populist Agamemnons sacrifice their children with righteous moral glee. The consumer price index has risen about 25%. The price of gas is a Trojan horse carrying voters' social resentments that rides into the voting booth in triumph. Inflation, as a once-in-a-generation spike in costs, leaves a toxic legacy for incumbent politicians. The price of gas is the fault of cancel culture. Also to blame are critical theorists and bureaucratic pedophiles who sacrifice babies in the basements of pizza parlors. Americans who earn less than $35,000 per year have reported difficulty paying everyday expenses. The price of gas is controlled by UFOs from Area 51 with full knowledge of the Pentagon. Large corporations with market power have used supply problems as an opportunity to increase prices and scoop windfall profits. The price of gas is one of the early signs of the apocalypse. What we need instead is a serious conversation around price controls. The price of gas is controlled by Satan. It might be true that, quotes, over the long run, rashes of inflation and deflation burn themselves out. The price of gas is worth more rancor than a wannabe democracy. But in the long run, Keynes has observed, we are all dead. That's it. Thanks.
Jerome, you're so bad. You're such a badass, like a badger, honey. That was really wonderful. What great phrases too. Marvelous insight and inclusion of the bigger world, you know. We're so screwed, aren't we? But it's not necessarily so new. Susan Lewis is signing off there. Bye, Susan. She had to run. She said alas. I'm so sorry. Hey, listen now. Sarah's here. She's about ready. And let me just say about Sarah, her works, her latest, like Cry Back My Sea, which booklist called An Ode to Love. Some cantos, sono cantos, and visits from, this is another title, Sono Cantos and Visits from the Seventh.
Those are two titles.
Those are two different titles. She's also published Night Thoughts, 70 Dream Poems, and Notes from an Analysis, a hybrid of poetry, essay, and memoir. Sarah recently brought out an acclaimed new edition of the poetry of Federico Garcia Lorca called Poet in Spain, all out from Alfred A. Knopf. Her honors include the Rome Prize of the American Academy of Arts and Letters and fellowships from the Bogliasco and the Guggenheim Foundations and the NEA. Her work has appeared in such places as The New Yorker, the New York Review of Books, Poetry, Paris Review, Live Mag, a lifelong New Yorker. She worked for the United Nations as a translator for many years. Let's please welcome Sarah Arvio. Take it away, Sarah.
Hello. So, hello. This is my book, Cry Back My Sea. Isn't it a beautiful cover? Kind of on the edge of garish, but I think quite beautiful. This book is called Cry Back My Sea, as I said, and it's about a love affair. The end of one, beginning and the end of it. And I'm going to, one of those relationships late in life. This poem is called Wood. It came out in the New Yorker and was anthologized in Canada in a textbook. The last thing I ever wanted was to write about grief. Do you think I would your grief this time, not mine? Oh, good grief, enough is enough in my life, that is. Enough was enough. I had all those grievances, all those griefs, all engraved into the wood of my soul. But would you believe it, the wood healed. I grew up and grew out, and would you believe it, I found your old woody heart sprouting. I thought, good new growth. Good new luxuriant green, leaves on their woody stalks. And I said, I'll stake my life on this old stick, I'll stick. And we talked into the morning and night and laughed, green leaves and sometimes a flower. Oh, bower of good new love, I would have it. I would bow to the new and the green. And wouldn't you know it, you were a stick. Yes, I know, a good stick so often, and then a stick in my ribs, in my heart. Your old dark wood, your old dark, gnarled stalk. sprouting havoc. And now I have grief again, and now I've stood for what I never should. Green leaves of morning, dark leaves of night. So the second one I'll read is whorl, W-H-O-R-L, just in case you weren't sure what word that was. Whorl, whorl. A critic I know said it was the sexiest poem he'd ever read. Maybe he hasn't read the sexiest poem that exists in the universe, but here's a try. Whorl, whorl, I can't even say it. Whorl. Then I spoke into the whorl. Can't even say it. Then I spoke into the whorl of your ear. Isn't this love, oh my warlock, my lord? Would you call this war or a quarrel? All those hard words heard in my ears. Our word hoard is harder than a hatchet, harder than a heart on the warpath. I didn't say you hoard me. No, not that. I can hear you whooping in the love war, the warping of our words on the field of war. How will you have me if I will have you? How will you let me if I will let you? Touching my forehead and my temple, fingering my forelock as you touch my skin. I wonder if it's a whisper. Oh, excuse me. I wonder if a whisper is warranted. Will you hear me? If I speak in low tones, a hue and cry, will you hear me if I cry? Here, here, I mean, will you have me here, linking the place with the sound of the word? With the love hoard heard in your ear, this is love, isn't it? A war in your ear. Love, love, a word in the whorl of your ear. Now this poem is called Sides. It's about the sides of the bed. But I called it or sidereal. I like this word sidereal because if no one has told you that you would pronounce it sidereal, you would call it side reel. S-I-D-E-R-E-A-L, side reel, the real side. But the sidereal, excuse me, means a starry, filled with stars. You decide, please, what side you're on. The sidereal, or the earthen side, or any other side that sounds like love, or sounds like a sound of turning in bed. Toward your side or my side, toward me as I sleep or don't sleep, turning toward you, and touching the star side or earth side along the slope of your shoulder or hip, sidling in and breathing through my nose, turning my face to the side inside your heat, sleeping like this beside your whole world. Both sides, the inner and the outer side. Both sides, the stellar and the earthy side. This is the insidious, unreal thing. This is the side you really can't decide. The stuff in your starstruck or dirty dream, speaking from the sidelines during the night, talking roughly to me during your dream. Oh, dirt, dirt, life, turn back to my side. This is real, the side of the real, our bed. Please turn toward me, real in the night. Peas. This is peas. There are some puns here, including peace, the word for war and peace, and peas. Okay. I've sat in a field full of peas and fed, once long ago, hulling the fresh green peas and eating them raw from the palm of my hand, each a green explosion, a kind of green dream in the peaceful field before my life was lived, fielding the future as I grazed the peas. I can hear myself saying, please, oh, please, pleading for something I didn't yet know. Had I known, I might have said, give me some fresh green peas. Give me a handful of peace. Let me graze in the grace of the field. Peace, peace, would you hold yours, please? Did I say peace and grace? I ask, is the peaceable possible? So everybody knows who Leonardo da Vinci is. And his town was Vinci, right? And Vinci is, the title of this, To Me Vinci, is you conquer me, you vanquish me. And it's an Italian, of course. Vincere. To me vinci. It's also called hang. So we all know that circle with the figure in it that Leonardo drew. You hang me on the hanger of our anger, like Da Vinci's triangle. And Vinci is vanquish, and vanquish is like anguish. And hang is what we do to to criminals and clothes. Is it a crime to hang round your neck, staring in your eyes and kissing your lips? Here I am, hanging, naked and splayed. I'm hung up on you. You're hanging me up. There's no other angle. I've flung them all out. You've taken myself and you've hung it in the triangle of you, where I'm dangling. I'll go away in a new set of clothes. For a cocktail or a crime, does it matter? But please let me down off your hanger. Oh, love, let me be free of your anger. I'll hang around sign, now I am mine. Old words you can't get the hang of. Do I have time for more? This one is handbag. Do I have anything to say about it? Oh, I have Bacchus in here, the god of revelry and so on, Dionysus in the Roman voice. Handbag. I felt some desire and I lost my sense. It was expensive to feel so much. I lost my sense and my money. I did not consent, though it was consensual. It was a con, and it cost me myself. I was selfless. I was trailing a scent. I was mourning, but not for the money. And that's a mistake. I lost my soul take. And now there's nowhere to stake a claim. I'd put a stake in his heart, but I can't. Oh, Bacchus, will you dress me in grape leaves? I'm back in the bar to begin again, and needing a coif of some rich stuff, and some hair dye, and a bewitching scent, and all that is sensual and cunning, without a scent or sense in the world, and nothing in my handbag but my soul. One more. So this poem, which is called Some Hand, plays on the word handsome. Handsome, some hand, some hand. I saw him go out handsome in his suit, in his shoes and suit, so handsome. He was hiding something in his hand when he turned and went, and he said, I'm going now. I said, will you give me a hand? And he was walking out in his shoes and his summer suit into the spring day. And I thought, he feels better today. He's wearing his lovely linen summer suit. It suits him, and so do his shoes. And then I went upstairs, and I saw in his room that the suitcases were gone, and so were his hands, and some of his clothes, and some of his shoes, and some of I didn't know what. It's shoe in and shoe out, handsome devil with something in his hand, and it's the soft touch of the nest of his hand, or it's the tough stuff in the stuff of his hand. And I said, will you give me your shoe? And he said, sure, and hit me on the head with the shoe. And sure, it didn't hurt. It was barely a slipper. This was a slip on and slip off. This was the soft soul of the dapper world. Tap, tap, dap, dap, or dip down, I kept saying. Why don't you dip down into your deep self and tell me why you're so handsome and why so devilishly angry? There's a story there, but it doesn't suit you to say what it was. And now you've got your hand on the knob in your dapper suit off into a spring day. Thank you.
Yay. Marvelous. Thank you, Sarah Arvio. That was delightful, huh? Cry Back My Sea. All right, and now gives me great pleasure to introduce our John Wesnick, our another co-host, and then we'll have the open reading with Cassandra, and maybe we'll hear the end of the story about the what was it the story about? Oh, the opera singer, right? Yes. All right, so John is up in New Hampshire. He's the regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual, although he's up in New Hampshire, and the host of the Gelato East Fiction Open Mic. Hundreds of his poems and stories have appeared in journals such as the I-70 Review, New Verse News, Patterson Literary Review, and Unlikely Stories, Mark V. He's written novels, poetry collections, short story collections, science fiction, and his latest chapbook, Explaining Humanity to Electrons, contains poems about physics. Please welcome John. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So back in 1953, John Ford directed one of these great white hunter movies called Mogambo, and it starred Clark Gable and Ava Gardner and Grace Kelly. And Mogambo, does not come from any African language. It was just a made-up word, and so here's a parody called Mogambo, and it is a prose poem. Baobabs moon the sky as crocodiles peer through periscopes at roan cantaloupe on the banks of the Zambezi. Deep in the rhinoceros grass, a capybara and a slouch hat spots a rare two-horned triceratops's spoor and motions to the great white hunter. The ivory trade will deliver its tusks to a Chinese medicine shop where they will share shelves with pangolin spleens because those khaki safari jackets with epaulets, waist belts, and flap pockets don't pay for themselves. All that sweat-stained manliness, with its elephant guns and leopard headbands, makes two women squirm in their stretch pants. Secretary birds don't even look up from their typewriters, being more concerned with Mach numbers and the onset of turbulence than with those colonizers who drink warm gin and tonic because the porter carrying an ice bucket stepped on a garden hose. Despite dedicated missionaries' toil, tribal people have yet to adopt the file sharing and cell phone plans of modernity, preferring instead to dance the Watusi to Chubby Checker on vinyl, their turntables, audio amps, and impedance matched cables hidden from the prying eyes of Nairobi under thatched roofs. Pounding his chest, the chief shouts, "Mo Gumbo, Mo Gumbo!" Contrary to the great white hunter's belief, this is not praise, but simply an invitation to polish off Thursday's okra, the guacamole having gone brown, and leftover jollof rice devoured by hungry, hungry hippos. With little interest in trigonometry, the dark continent refuses to declare the love triangle scalene or isosceles. Whatever its hypotenuse, tough guys will pour whiskey on bullet wounds, colonoscopy fish will startle unwary flamingos, and pith helmets will fall like Naugahyde from swaying tuk-tuk trees.
Oh,
Wow.
John, thank you. Let me thank all of our readers before we move on one more time. I want to thank John, Ana, Jerome, and Sarah. It was a super reading today. And Cassandra.
Yeah, and let's not forget sweat-stained manliness, John Wessick himself after that. Thank you, John. That was a lovely way to segue into our open. And next up, we have the very urbane Leslie Prosterman. You are up first. I think you have to unmute so we can hear your amazing work.
I'm unmuting in a particularly urbane way. I hope you noted that.
Yes.
Slow and urbane. All right, so I just wrote this, and this is my first ride with it. What we knew something different. We knew about yellow, we knew about doves, we knew about rusting. Apples were part of the knowledge. Before they told us, we knew about hair. We knew about rising. We knew about abalone and the darkness in the human heart, about the twisted desires we held close to our lips, to our webbing, and the complex, the gorgeous weave of the ineffable and the incomprehensible. Therefore, we knew the long game of brocade, about texture, betrayal and backsliding on the hill. Thin gold wires, the lambada and the backbend, discus and dirge, amanita muscaria, the stew. And after, we knew only forever after was flat and true because they told us.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I did love apples were part of the knowledge and a bit of twisted desire. It's always good. Thank you. It was a wonderful poem. It was very urbane. Next, we have futuristic Mike Folds, because he always looks like, I don't know, he's in another universe, somewhere deep in the future. What have you got for us, Mike?
I have a poem that I wrote kind of in response to, by the way, good reading tonight. Thank you very much. In watching some of the Senate hearings at the, in the States, there were some really gross exchanges between some of the candidates for different offices and the people who were supposedly screening them for the positions they were going to be in. And one was some senator from Indiana, I believe, asked Pete what's his name? Whatever it is. And so he asked Pete this question, like, how many sexes are there? As if this was an inside joke. And Pete said 2. So I wrote this poem called Who's Counting? Unnatural to deny nature. Instinct rules in the wild, where weak become prey. It's been said before, but who's weaker? How many sexes are there? Depends on whom you ask. The president says 2 to standing ovations. If that's not you, what are you? Pray for the prayerful? How many in the room are secretly offended? How many say nothing? How many do nothing? Back in the closet then, after 4 years looking over your shoulder, looking through travel zines for safe havens to ride it out. Places where no one's counting, unnatural to deny nature. They said that, they, them, not their, and so they do. Did you call them out? Did you call them what they are? Were you predator or prey? Were they surprised? Did they stop counting? Thank you.
Oh, topical. Love it. Instinct rules in the wild. Are you predator or prey? Some great lines. Thank you so much, Mike. It's so
Sure.
nice to have you
Thanks
back.
for asking.
No props. Next up, we have my orange partner in crime. We do orange well. DeWitt, what have you got for us?
Well, if I can be heard.
Yes, you can be.
Well, there seems to be a lot of extraterrestrial activity tonight. So this is called UFO. In my teens, I read and loved sci-fi. So Arthur C. Clarke spoiled my preference for phallic rockets with scientific notions of erector set scaffolding and pods. I read Jules Verne's From the Earth to the Moon, where the idea of shooting a capsule and crew from a mortar seemed ill-informed and quaint. While I relished the 1958 film featuring an up-to-date V4 rocket and details of faces dragged down by G's during its prolonged escape thrust. Radiation from the bomb was blamed for giant ants and them. 1954. Einstein pondered relativity. My mother ghost wrote a book with my father's shrink called Atom to Atom, attempting to psychoanalyze our species' history. Glort, the indestructible robot from the day the Earth stood still, 51, policed our evolution and would return to annihilate us if we failed to outgrow war. In 1962, I was a junior at Amherst, a year before JFK's assassination. I lived in a frat house across the street from Emily Dickinson's, and was walking with Jim Goldberg, a senior, downhill to our campus dining hall. We saw a bright spot above us, which greatened and descended, then hovered huge and close, about to land. We stood in our tracks, less afraid than transfixed. This was happening, and at last, we looked at each other and laughed. Then poof, the overhead object dissolved. No sirens, no shouts, no seeming difference anywhere. We hurried to the dining hall, called campus police. Had anybody seen anything? Friends tuned transistor radios to news, but no mention. Then a couple other students arrived who had seen something. Eventually, scattered sightings by townies were reported with an official explanation. Air Force space flares. There we were, English majors, well-read skeptics and sophisticates. We had looked at each other and laughed, convinced that this was it.
I have to say, no one quite does open mic like DeWitt. He takes us back to everything that we want to see. Even I loved seeing you for a moment as a junior at Amherst. That was pretty cool. And the radiation from the bomb was blamed for giant ants. It's made me want to go back to all of those movies and books. So thank you. Amazing. Next we have Cindy. Badass Brooklyn. What do you got for us, Badass?
It's a rumor. I'm not really badass. I'm very tame. I stay in my little room and don't bother anyone. This poem is 3 lines, so as usual, my intro is longer than the poem. And when I wrote it several years ago, a long time ago, more than several, it wasn't meant to be a political poem. But I see that it can have a little political reference in it, much like the little outfit I'm wearing. That was by accident too. This is really meant as an homage to William Carlos Williams and that wheelbarrow. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow. No, wait, it's the blue one that everything depends on. And these days, that's damn true.
Got a little answer, Cindy. Oh my goodness, the open is keeping me on my toes today, that's for sure. But we're going to finish with the only way we can ever finish an open, and that's Bob from his kitchen, the kitchen laureate as he's now known. Bob, you're going to have something for us that we all take away with us for the rest of the morning or evening, wherever you may be. What have you got?
A new information piece.
Excellent.
Information. The moon eats differently than we do. Its appetite requires the words the prayers carry into the sky. In its dreams, it is the only beast that measures the heavens.
I would go as far as to say that's kind of like metaphysical and romantic. I love it, Bob. A new side from you today. Excellent. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Ursa and Ursula. Guys, that was a really fabulous. Anybody have anything they want to say to anybody? It's nice to see everybody so much. It's cold. It's been cold, freezing. Well, we'll see you next time. What do we got next, Cassandra? Do you know? It's a month away, so we'll let you know. But thanks so much for coming. All right, and cheers and good luck. Love you. Happy New Year. Bye.
Happy New Year.
Thank you all, and thanks for everybody who read as the features. It was great to hear all of you and all of our openers. Thanks, Cassandra. Thanks, Jeff.
Be well, folks.
Thanks all our great readers.
Wonderful to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.